productivity isn't about checking things off of a to-do list. The productivity is, did I enjoy today? Now, obviously, you have to work hard and create, short-term sacrifices for long-term fulfillment. That's a whole different conversation. If you feel like you're burnt out and you feel like you constantly have a to-do list that's longer than what you have as far as time in the day goes, slow down and remember what the point of all of this is. Even if you feel like you have no way out, even if you feel like you have no spare time to even think, take 15 minutes, call a friend, spend some time with family, read a book, walk on the beach. Productivity is absolutely not tied to getting things done. I'm not going to judge my efficiency by the number of dollars in my bank account or the number of jobs that I completed or the number of clients that I have. I'm going to run my ultimate efficiency by the love that I shared, the people that I helped, and the memories that I made.
Noah Tanner, welcome to the Grateful Podcast.
Thanks for having me, brother. I'm excited to be here. Let's do it.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm super excited, super stoked. Main thing is keep it simple. So I want you to start off talking about the importance of keeping things simple and not overcomplicating.
Yeah. So for anybody who doesn't know me, I'm Noah. I've lost 110 pounds during COVID, and I started the Big Fella brand shortly after that. I help people lose weight for a living. I grew up heavy, and another thing, that I had to battle with for quite a while was I still battle with it to this day. I am an overthinker, and I tend to overcomplicate things pretty tremendously, and it leads to some pretty awful burnout if you're not careful. So I use it as a key reminder to myself for years on, just keep it simple. This was like something I wrote on sticky notes and different things like that to myself for years. And then I started telling people and sharing my journey on social media and giving fitness advice and weight loss content on social media. And people, again, tend to overcomplicate things. And fitness is not that complicated. Once you understand the basic concepts, it's just about how can you repeatedly keep it simple. And then, obviously, the nickname, the biggest fella, has stuck around for quite a while. And so I just started saying, keep it simple, big fella. And that kind of just stuck. So I love where it's at, but it feels good because it's true to me. It's not just a, random catchphrase. It's something that I have to I'm consistently reminding myself when I'm saying it to other people. So, we have a hard time often overthinking and thinking too much about certain problems. Like, think about it enough to understand the concept and then go execute. Keep it simplistic. Don't sit there and ruminate. Rumination is a dirty thing that it's hard to overcome sometimes.
100%. Yeah, we were just talking about it before we started recording, how when you start just having fun with something, you're often, one, you're having more fun, which is just the whole point, and two, you're more effective. And that's something, it's just so difficult because if you want to be good at something, you try to put as much as you can into it, but it often bites you in the butt because you're overcomplicating it.
Definitely. It's about controlling the energy you put behind it. You want to motivate yourself enough to, if your goal is losing weight, if your goal is making a better financial future for yourself, improving your career, whatever it might be, being able to identify your direction, where you want to go, but also break it down into a smaller enough day-to-day to where you can actually accomplish it is the hardest part. You have to have a clear direction on what you want, which is sometimes people never get that far, but ultimately it's what you break down to the daily non-negotiables. The daily actions is what matters the most. So definitely.
Yeah, transferring that to fitness, I saw a video you made talking about Sam Sulek and why he's the best thing that's happened in the fitness industry, and you popped up this graphic, and it was this bell curve of people that train hard. So I'll pop it up on the screen for those that are watching on YouTube, but for those listening, it's this bell curve of people that have never worked out, and on the bottom, they just say, oh, we train hard and have fun. And then in the middle, it's these over-optimizers that think about all these complicated things, overcomplicating it, but they never reach this final step, which is just train hard and have fun, exactly where you started. And those are the guys that make it big, like Sam Sulek. That's his motto, and I think that was very important and a really good visual.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the bell curve. Bell curve memes need to be more popular. That's something that I am a firm believer on. I love bell curve memes because it does provide a lot of context. It just goes to show like when you learn something, it's gonna feel like an absolute monstrosity of complexities. But then once you really understand something, it really breaks it down and it becomes a lot simpler in your head. There's a quote or it might just be a little proverb that I'm paraphrasing here, but if you can't explain it to a fifth grader or a 5 year old, you don't know enough about it. You don't fully understand it. And that's one thing that I really tried to live by. Like if I couldn't break this concept down, even the most complex concepts, if I can't break them down into where, my anybody that I would speak to that's a child, they could understand it, then I knew enough about it. If I couldn't do that, then I didn't know enough about the topic to share advice to or give, advice to anybody else on it. And that's a huge thing in fitness, especially a couple of years ago. The optimal lifting crowd became a pretty large crowd very quickly, about being perfectly optimal for hypertrophy, basically what's going to give you the most amount of muscle, the most bang for your buck in the gym. And yes, is those people important? Are they very smart? Absolutely. There's some absolute wizards, shout out TNF, shout out JPG, shout out Ben Yanes, some really, really, really high level creators I would highly recommend you guys check out if you're looking to get into more science-based lifting. But ultimately, the most efficient fitness plan is going to be the one that you stick to. You could have the sickest workout program in the world with all these rep times and mesocycles planned out. If you don't show up, it ain't really doing much for you.
Yeah. I mean, it comes back to a quote that I love by Chris Williamson, and I'm not going to be able to do the entire quote. It's a long one, but basically, he goes on all these different things, like thinking about the thing is not doing the thing, or planning the thing is not doing the thing. I think a lot of times the optimal lifters, and again, this is a generalization, doesn't go for everyone, but a lot of these people that are trying to optimize everything and get the best bang for their buck, it's a form of procrastination. It's a form of not doing the thing, because that time that they're planning their optimal workout is time that they could be actually just doing a workout that's going to get them stronger and closer to their goals than all this extra planning.
Definitely. That mental procrastination is ginormous, and I see it happen all the time, especially in weight loss. I'm been running a lot more recently. I've been lifting for years. I ran a lot during my initial weight loss journey, but I've been running a lot more as of recently. I've got a couple like shorter races that I'm going to be doing here shortly, so that'll be fun. But
Nice.
when I talk about running and I see people when I post about running on my stories and stuff, I have a lot of bigger guys or people that are trying to just lose weight on my stories and in my community, and they'll ask me like, "Oh, what running shoes do you use?" Dude, that's not the point. Just go run. How do you become a better runner? You run more. That's how you do it. It's the simplest answer. Just go run more. You don't got to study breathing techniques. You don't got to get fancy shoes. How do you become better at lifting? You go to the gym and you figure it out. Obviously do your research beforehand. Don't injure yourself. There's obviously a rhyme and reason to that, of course, but you don't need the supplements thing is the biggest thing, and that's why Mike Pridgeon does this as well. We are both very not anti-supplement, but we like to minimize the importance of supplements, or really just give people a reality check of how important supplements truly are. Like, yes, can they help? Yes, but they are also meant to be a supplementation to what ultimately matters. And a lot of people get stuck in this trap where they want to lose weight, they want to build muscle, whatever their fitness goal might be, but they have to feel like they have to ask 100 questions first. You don't need to ask those questions. That's your psyche trying to delay the fact that you just are avoiding the work that needs to be done. I don't care how much people push codes on TikTok or Instagram, and there's a lot of them, but at the end of the day, it's not going to make any sort of dent in your progress whatsoever if you are not taking the necessary actions required. So I don't care what creatine you're taking. I don't care what pre-workout you're taking. I don't care how many questions you think you should be asking about it. It's not going to do squat if you are not showing up and doing the basic work in the meantime. So go start doing that. Answer the questions later. That's what I always like to say. I say, make it exist first, then make it good. Build the plane as you fly it.
I think and I agree with everything you just said. And I think the problem with it is that that's not what gets views on social media. People want to hear that they can find some easy way out. The people want to hear that they can buy a supplement, and that's why people go back to those, right? And so one of the reasons that I respect what you're doing so much is because you're doing the hard thing, but you're doing the true thing. You're helping people get to the bottom of and get the real answers, the things that will actually help them make progress, not the things that'll uh, help their ego and help their short-term gain uh, with long-term consequences, and that consequence being not actually achieving the goal. Um, but it's been really hard for a lot of people to sift through what's real and what's not with this algorithm or we both talk about this. The algorithm is actually just people. People just want the easy way out. Um, and so, yeah, I really respect what you're doing with that. But it's got to be hard sometimes, right?
Definitely, definitely. There's a lot of snake oil salesmen in the fitness industry. I mean, any industry is going to have them. There's a lot I could say about this, and I'm sure there's a lot of other people that would agree with me, and some people that would maybe come for my throat. I don't really care. Uh, the more magic pills you try to swallow, the more likely you are to choke, and that's what I try to tell people all the time. I just pulled that out of my head one day a couple years ago, and I've been sticking to it. I think it's the truth though, and it's the best way to say it because the more you delay the work that you need to do, the worse, the deeper hole you're going to have to dig yourself out of. And I've been making a lot of videos recently. I mean, I've only posted a couple about this, but they're within the fitness industry specifically. Now that it's the online fitness space has been a thing for the last few years, right? We've had full careers made from social media now. It's been around for quite a while. TikTok's been around, Instagram's been around. The initial desire to become an authority in the fitness space and coaching and weight loss used to be the old school personal trainer mindset. Oh, I like fitness. I want to help people get fit. I want to actually help people get fit the way I did. For 90% of, not maybe not 90%, but for a large majority of people now, the desire to get into the fitness industry is no longer for the desire to help people. It is now entirely based on greed because we now have these influencers that have been around for years that have been wildly successful. A lot of them spread great information. Some of them don't. I'm not here to talk about that. But those people that eventually will start flexing how much money they're making all the time, those people are infecting some of these younger guys in their 18, 19, 20, 21 that want to start, becoming an online health coach or a fitness trainer or something like that, an online fitness coach. They're going to want to do it because they want to make a lot of money, not because they are passionate about helping people. The people that are truly passionate are going to talk about the ugly stuff. The people that aren't truly passionate are going to be selling you the one-off programs. They're going to be talking about supplements 24/7, and they're going to be talking about having a bikini body in 6 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a hard cycle to break though, because what the consumer wants is the easy answer.
Yeah.
How do you think we can change I don't know if we can, but how do you envision changing the consumer's mindset to looking for those ugly things for the real answers?
Yeah, definitely. So there's a business concept from Alex Hormozy. It's called the story of the ham and the garlic. At least I heard it from Alex Hormozy. It's probably older than that, but it's the story of the ham and the garlic. And I won't go into the story, but it's effectively saying you have to give the audience what they want and then add what they need. And so you have to, when you're in my position and you're trying to help people, or if anybody, I mean, this could pertain to just about anybody, right? If you know a lot about a certain topic, right? Like if you know a lot about politics, if you know a lot about fitness, if you know a lot about finances, if you know a lot about, whatever, a skill that people find desirable, right? Everyone has a thing. If you become highly proficient at that skill, like for me, it was weight loss and teaching people how to lose weight, right? So I get a lot of questions when I'm out and about, when I run into people I haven't seen in a while, when I go to family vacations or like see family for the first time in a while, they'll ask me some of those generic questions that I get all the time, like, oh, carbs, or oh, eating past 7 p.m., or hey, what do you eat? Like just the basic stuff. You have to just be okay with answering the surface level questions. You have to have good answers for those, but then also add enough context underneath it to explain the why. You have to be good at giving context in a very quick way because they are not going to sit there and listen to you yap for 20 minutes. So you have to be better at it. I think just as a whole in the fitness industry, we can do better as still giving the people what they want and answering those basic questions, but then adding in extra context underneath it and explaining the why behind us doing those things. And I've been doing this for a long time. It also comes down to who you're speaking to. There is always going to be people. I mean, I have people that have been following me for years that are still asking me the same questions that they were asking me years ago. They're stuck in that same loop. They haven't made any progression because they're still stuck in that same surface level mindset. So you have to just accept the fact that some of those you cannot force anybody to listen to the stuff that they need to hear because some people aren't ready to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of have to coat what you're trying to say in the thing that you think they want you to say. It's
Yeah,
complicated,
yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what the ham and the garlic is. It's about a story with a
Right.
dog. A dog has a bunch of ticks on him, and a little kid's like, "Hey, my dog has all these ticks, Grandpa. What do I do?" He's like, "You have to feed him garlic." He's like, "Okay." Oh, well, the dog won't eat garlic. He doesn't like the garlic. Oh, well, you can't just feed him garlic. You have to wrap the piece of garlic in the ham, so then he'll eat it. And then the dog
Right.
eats the ham and the garlic. The ticks fall off. The magic myth works, and then he learns the lesson of packaging it in a way of what they want, which is just quick, instant, always instant gratification, which I think has just been obviously over exaggerated thanks to short form content and social media. And now AI is probably making it even worse.
Yeah. Well, I think it's good that you're on Instagram and you have good short form content and you're good at
Thank you.
making content, and so that has to help. It's not like you're hiding away on a corner on some random podcast, or you're high or you're like in a corner on YouTube with only your own niche. Not that that's bad, right? Like people that do that and that have the people that want them, like I respect that a lot. But you're out there and you have the content for people that you can actually impact, and that you're not just looking for the people that are automatically going to come to you and accept what you have to say. Your content might change some people's minds, and
Yeah.
because of the way you're packaging it. And I think that's a really cool way to think about that. I hadn't really thought about that before.
Yeah, it's something you just kind of I just learned it over years of posting. You know, I'm still not fantastic at it. I still have a lot of room to grow. A lot of that it just comes down to like delegating and stuff. But that's a different conversation. But yeah, it's you get to learn a lot about human psychology too.
Hmm.
If you're passionate about it, you're never gonna stop. And the longer you try to teach something, the longer you make a commitment to serving people and helping people, you get a lot better at speaking their own language, right? There's a easy way to think about it, right? If a cop walks up to you and asks you a question, and then your grandma walks up to you and asks you a question, you're gonna probably have a different tone of voice, and you're probably gonna speak to those two people very differently. Not like you're gonna necessarily lie or be mistruthful or say anything wildly different, but your body language, your delivery, and your tonality, and what words you start with are going to change. Your communication style is going to shift entirely based off who you're speaking to. So that's also something to kind of think about as well.
Yeah, I know I'm definitely not talking to my grandma and a cop the same way.
No,
But
no,
definitely, I would definitely talk to my grandma and a cop more similarly than I would like uh, a buddy and a cop. They're
definitely.
a little
Yeah,
close.
yeah, yeah,
um, yeah. So we talked a lot about keeping it simple in the fitness sense of things, but that's not all you do. You coach people on their mindset as well. I think you have this like holistic approach to things where you're not just focusing on fitness, because someone can't get fit and not make any progress up here because they'll just go back to where they were before. They'll probably gain that weight again. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that it all has to tie together. So how do you keep it simple mentally for people?
yeah. No, that's a great question. I've definitely taken the last few months to make a much bigger push on the mental side of things, and
Mm.
really it's all come from my own personal struggles, my own personal journey, but also experience. I've worked with hundreds of guys, I've worked with hundreds of men and women as clients, and you learn a lot about people. And obviously you think you know a lot about people until you know you work with hundreds of people and you have thousands of conversations, and then you get to learn even more. And I have more to learn yet still, but it really started from, I had some scary conversations, dude. Like when when you become a coach with somebody that actually cares, people open up to you and you learn some pretty scary things sometimes. People are, the average person, especially the average man, is not nearly as mentally healthy as you think they are. And and people say, "Oh, everyone's putting on a face." Yeah, that's true, but like people are deeper into the dark side than most people realize. And from seeing that firsthand in more ways than I would have liked, I decided that I wanted to make what I stand for and what I do for people larger than just weight loss. And so when it comes to keeping it simple, I really take a anti-burnout approach. I feel like a lot of us, especially guys specifically, are, I mean, women just as much so, but guys don't communicate it very well. Women can communicate it a bit better. And again, that's a generalization. I'm not here to break that down. You know what I mean? But guys specifically, there's a huge stigma about talking about needing help. And when you talk about dealing with burnout, because as a man, you're supposed to be a servant. You're supposed to be there to serve. You're supposed to be there to provide. And when you feel like the walls are stacked up against you, you can feel incredibly alone. And when you talk about how it ties into fitness and mental health, I've seen hundreds of people experience burnout and they don't even know they're burnt out. And the big gap to fill is, how do those two get connected, and where can those core tenets of the weight loss get applied to a bigger umbrella in the fitness realm? And when you say keep it simple, it's really about finding ways to make space for yourself, right? If you're working 40, 50, 60 hours a week, if you have a family with, a wife and kids, if you are dealing with house chores, where's the time for you? And you're trying to start a weight loss journey, where's the time for you? Where do you get to hop on the game and play with the boys? Where's the time for you where you to go for a hike? Where's the time where you to go shoot some hoops? That's important, and I feel like that's what people are really missing now. I feel like that's kind of disappeared, and that disappears the longer you push into adulthood. And when it comes to finding simplicity, I talk about, we kind of spoke about it like you said earlier at the beginning. Fun is flow, and it's not about trying to think positively. It's about trying to think less.
Yeah.
Because if you sit at home all day when you're done working and you just sit and rot for 3 hours on your phone, you're going to be thinking, unless you're just doom scrolling the whole time, then there's not a single thought in that brain at all. But if you're just sitting there thinking, inactive, thinking leads, I mean, that's what overthinking is. You just ruminate and you spin. But if you can go and do something, that's why athletes are usually so in love with being athletes, because when they're competing, they're not thinking. When they're competing, they're fully present in the moment. They're fully present in what they're doing. So it's about, how can normal everyday people find that flow? How can normal everyday people carve out that time for themselves to fill their cup back up? It doesn't always have to be therapy. A lot of guys like think that, oh, when I talk about taking care of your mental health, I'm not just saying go to therapy or talk to a buddy. Yeah, you absolutely should do that, and that should not have a stigma around it at all. But more importantly, I talk a lot about with my weight loss clients, like, how are we going to make this fun? How are we going to make this enjoyable for you? Because this whole thing is kind of the rest of your life now. Not going to be losing weight the rest of your life, but keeping it off is obviously a full-time endeavor, right? But it's about, how can we simplify it so it's not hard? So Really, it's about not being your own worst enemy. It's about stop self-sabotaging yourself and give yourself half an hour at least every day to play the guitar, shoot around, play the video game, call an old buddy, go for a long walk with your dog. It could be anything. But I think that's the biggest piece of simplicity that could severely solve a lot of the burnout crisis that a lot of men are secretly fighting that aren't saying a single thing about it. So when it comes to keeping it simple, I'd say that's probably the core of my mindset around it.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Grateful Podcast. I'm interrupting to let you know that it would mean the world to me if you could share this episode with someone that you think would enjoy it, or leave a review down below so I can learn what I can do better and what I'm doing well with this podcast. It's a passion project, and I really want it to turn into something that helps people everywhere. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoy the rest of the episode. Ed Milet says you cannot be depressed while working out. I heard that and I thought about it for a second. I paused, I rewatched it because I was like, that can't be right. And I thought about it while I'm working out or while I'm doing something like that where I'm actively involved in some activity that takes my full attention. I realized he was right. I'm never in a bad mood while I'm doing that. Maybe I'm like, oh, I don't want to do another rep of this or something like that. Like,
Right.
oh, it hurts. But it's not that same feeling as when you're rotting on your bed scrolling through your phone. Yeah, it's something I've been thinking about a lot recently. It is just burnout because I do a lot, and sometimes I can get pretty burnt out, and it's really hard to prioritize the fun thing. Like you said, just play the guitar, go for a hike, whatever it is for you. It's really hard for me to prioritize that because it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
feel productive. And
Yes.
that feels wrong, right? And I don't think that's where we should be in society, but for some reason we're here. And I don't know why we're here, but we are.
That the societal thing, that's probably a bigger conversation. I'm sure there's more qualified people that could probably give you an answer to that than me. But with the whole productivity thing, I definitely could say something to that. A lot of the people that I work with feel like this constant, and I'm included. I'm in this umbrella as well. The constant need to be productive. You know, um, Jack, I love what you're doing here at the Grateful Podcast, but if this is eventually going to turn into a full-time gig for you, it will consume you sometimes, probably. And that productivity is going to you got to be able to manage it. But it seems like you're doing that pretty well. But one thing, I literally just said this to a client on a phone call like a couple days ago. It was on Tuesday. I told him productivity is not about getting things done. It's about the total fulfillment and enjoyment of your life, right? And it
Love
sounds
that.
super cheesy, but when you really dive into it, I'm going to die. You are going to die. And it's a very morbid thing when you just say that to somebody randomly. But I studied Stoicism. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but I've studied
Oh yeah.
Stoicism tremendously for the last several years. And thinking about your own
Meditations right there.
Hey,
I don't know if you
good.
can see it.
Yes,
Yeah.
ball.
Yeah.
Yes, beautiful. Uh, when you think about your own mortality, it can kind of remind you of that. It's like, hey, I'm not going to be here forever. I've seen a trend on social media recently. It's like maybe this was the whole. Maybe I'm forgetting that this was the whole point, right? I don't know if you've seen that trend recently. I've seen that on short form media recently, but it's like people reading books or like playing with their family, and that is the point. That
Yeah.
is the point. I love helping people. I love helping men and women, improve their physical and mental health. And I love, I love waking up and doing what I get to do every day. But also, the whole point for me is to have time with my family, spend time with my animals, spend time with my friends outside. That's what I enjoy. I have emphasized family life so much for myself that I have sacrificed some sort of financial gain in certain senses across my career because that's not the point. Like you have
Right.
to remind yourself that the productivity isn't about checking things off of a to-do list. The productivity is, did I enjoy today? Now, obviously, you have to work hard and create, short-term sacrifices for long-term fulfillment. That's a whole different conversation. That's not what I'm saying. But don't get so caught up. If you feel like you're burnt out and you feel like you constantly have a to-do list that's longer than what you have as far as time in the day goes, Slow down and remember what the point of all of this is. Even if you feel like you have no way out, even if you feel like you have no spare time to even think, take 15 minutes, call a friend, spend some time with family, read a book, walk on the beach if you're close to the beach, right? I live next to Lake Michigan, so it's a beautiful, beautiful setup. I love where I live. But it's the productivity is absolutely not tied to getting things done. Because if you look at it from a efficiency of life standpoint, that's kind of a weird term, but that's kind of ultimately what I call it. An efficiency of life. Like how efficient of a life did we live? I'm
Yeah.
not going to judge my efficiency by the number of dollars in my bank account or the number of jobs that I completed or the number of clients that I had. I'm going to run my ultimate efficiency by the love that I shared, the people that I helped, and the memories that I made. And that sounds cheesy as hell, and I fully understand that, but it's the truth. Because that's what I'm going to care about when I am on my deathbed. And those are the things that I don't want to have any regrets about. That's a big one. And I'm not going to get super deep into this, but thinking about your own mortality and thinking about yourself on your deathbed and thinking, what would I regret most not doing is a great, great path forward to finding direction and achieving that, productivity and that fulfillment.
I absolutely love that. That is one of my biggest life philosophies, thinking about what would I regret not doing when I'm about to die. Because when we are about to die, we would do anything for any moment that we have. I think about that sometimes. In my
Mm-hmm.
hardest moment, even in my hardest moment alive, in the moment I'm about to die, I would probably give anything to have that moment again. The other day I wrote, being successful means nothing if you don't enjoy your existence. Optimize for fulfillment. And you saying that productivity is synonymous with fulfillment is huge because I think a lot of times they're seen as two opposite things. Like they're two sides of a seesaw. You can either find fulfillment or be productive, and it's a give and take and sacrifice for each of them. But realizing that no, they can be the same thing. That real productivity is optimizing for your fulfillment. That's one of the biggest things I think I've ever heard. Like that is huge for a good life.
What would you say is one of your absolute must do's? Like, as far as if I don't do this, I'll regret it.
In life in general,
Yeah, just anything. It
yeah.
could be super deep or it could be something just like fun.
One of the fun ones is I've always wanted to go skydiving, and I think I'm making that happen in the next month or two. But
Nice.
overall, uh, like overall, I want to prioritize more time for meditation. I'm super
Mm-hmm.
curious about the like I meditate almost every day, but what would happen if gave up some time and made that like the number one priority for a while? I'm super
Mm-hmm.
curious about the levels of consciousness and the another reality or whatever I could
Yeah. No,
see.
I'm definitely tied into that spiritual stuff too. I would recommend looking into Carl Jung,
Yeah,
Jung, if you're not familiar already. Um, Definitely a good guy to listen to. That's cool, man. That's super dope. I would also argue like meditation is another form of that flow. It's just harder to
yeah,
achieve because it requires that super stillness that a lot of us don't have right now. But I would prescribe that to also like true actual meditation is also flow. So when it comes to giving your mind and body space and finding that true presence, meditation is similar to deep concentration, physical activity, playing a sport. That's the same thing. Meditation's just harder because we as humans in this day and age suck at staying still. And
yeah. We
so
do.
that is the same thing though. I love that. I would say one of my fun regrets, or not, one things that I want to do before I die, so I don't regret it,
Yeah,
is going to New Zealand. I have
nice.
already made a verbal commitment with my longtime girlfriend Ashley to we're gonna go there for our honeymoon.
That's
So that'd be
awesome.
cool. And then one of my big ones that a little bit more life altering is being a dad. So down the road,
100%.
down the
Yeah,
road.
thinking. But I think, yeah, those things are so important because it gives you a path to follow for your life. Gives you, uh, I don't want to say boxes to check because it sounds like some to-do list that you're just
Yeah.
mindlessly checking boxes, but it gives you uh, a map to say, am I living in accordance with, am I living how I want to live? Am I
Yeah.
prioritizing the things that I want to prioritize? Because while we do care, like you said, you care a lot about the big fella brand and the impact you're having there. And that's a big part of your life for you. And for this, for me, the Grateful Podcast and what I'm building here is a big part of my life. And I expect it to continue to become a bigger part of my life. But uh, it's not everything and not
Yeah.
even close to everything.
That perspective is huge, and it's obviously it's easier for us to talk about because we have that entrepreneurial spirit. You know, not everybody has that though,
Yeah.
it's funny because I've been experiencing this conversation with a couple of my friends. I'm 23, so I've been doing this full time for 3 years now. But a lot of my friends are just now, or new into the workforce. Like they're freshly
Right.
graduated out of college, or they've only been working full time at their big boy job for like 1 or 2 years max. So it's been interesting to see kind of how the shifts that they make in their lives, because you don't have to have this creator social media mindset. Like I feel like a lot of people have a hard time listening to podcasts like this, or not your podcast specifically, but there definitely feels like there's a bit of a disconnect between the people who are striving for self-improvement, the people that are making content and being creators in this kind of space, because we have an entrepreneurial spirit. Not everybody is going to, and that's completely okay. It does not make one better than the other, but the rules will still and should always still apply to you, even if it doesn't mean starting a business or starting a creator or a page or anything. Like you can find
Yeah.
fulfillment and you can still build and you can still create other things. And it doesn't have to always go into the form of entrepreneurship. I find business incredibly fun, but that doesn't mean that my buddy Malachi is going to, or my buddy Marcus is going to. Right? They have their own things going on, but I always still try to talk to them about this kind of stuff because it's important. Like, what do you want to take your life seriously? Do not, when you are out of school, they ever kind of talking about like, oh my God, I just got a job offer. I just accepted a job offer. I'm going to be working full time now behind a desk all day, that's a good, they're in good situations. They're going to be making solid money. They're going to be in good positions. Like those are good things. Right. But they're feeling this lack of direction a little bit, or
Hmm.
guys that are in their jobs for 5-10 years at a time, and they're like, this freaking blows. I feel like I'm living somebody else's life, or I'm living for somebody else. All it takes is one really hard conversation with yourself. Your life is entirely dictated by your ability and willingness to have difficult conversations.
So how did these people, I think that was a great point because there is this disconnect. So many of the people that talk about self-improvement and even weight loss, they're entrepreneurs themselves. They dictate their own schedules most of the time, and they have this freedom that not everyone has, and they make it seem like that's better, like almost on a pedestal or on another level, and this perspective of looking down upon people with full-time jobs. But that's most of the population uh, is not going to be, and most people are not going to become entrepreneurs. So how can people in a full-time job that work a 9 to 5 cultivate the same creativity and not feel like they're living someone else's life, as you said?
Create. Create something. It doesn't have to be shared with anybody. Just create something. Build something. I have my most fun when I'm building something, or like when I'm working. I love the days where I get to just tune out, put the headphones on, lean in, and just get to building and not have any call. Like I love my calls, I love my people, but building is fun, and especially when you give a shit about it, right? So, build an art, like a crafts project. I know some incredibly talented artists that create beautiful pieces of art that don't ever want to share it. I'm like, that's up to you. I'm just saying, I think you got some heat and I think you could share that. But it's up to them if they actually want to or not. But you gain a lot of fulfillment and you get to learn a lot about yourself when you can create or build something. That could also apply to like learning a skill, learning a new skill, right? That's building a skill. That's building. People call it like I'm kind of a nerd, so I talk a lot about like lore. Like build your lore. Create something. Paint a picture from memory for the first time ever if you have no art experience. Try a completely new sport, right? Like I screwed around with MMA a little bit last year, and I want to do it again, and I can't just sit here and keep talking saying I want to. I need to just shut up and go do it, right? And so I'm making the paths to my schedule to make that a reality. I live kind of further away from the gym, so either way, not an excuse, but that's still another side quest. Create something, build a skill, build a crafts project, build a music album. There's a million things you can do. Write, draw, read, create. Just build something. I feel like that's going to allow you to know a lot more about yourself. And that's a good place to start when it comes to that's also where you find fulfillment. Like, I'm a huge nerd, like I said. So when we were talking about taking those 30 minutes to do something you love, to do something what you like to do, if I'm really stressed out and I'm really in the trenches, I'm cracking open something from Lord of the Rings, dude. Lord of the Rings is
Nice.
like my safe space. I have a Lord of the Rings tattoo on my arm right now. So like I got a big poster right over here. So that's like everybody that knows me knows that I'm a Lord of the Rings dude. So not a Lord of the Rings ring, no. I will say that. This is a promise ring. But that is like, for the lack of a better term, like my safe space. That's what I can do. Get a spam call to give myself that peace of mind, that fulfillment to slow me down, to wind me down, but also feel like I can go be somewhere or create something.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good point. Creativity is so huge, and I think one of the reasons that entrepreneurs can talk about self-improvement so much is because through that creativity, we learn about ourselves and we learn
Mm,
about where we can improve and what we want to build upon. And so eliminating this pillar of creativity from your life really restricts a lot of growth you can have and a lot of fulfillment that you're going to get. So building that in is very, very important.
yeah, I like thinking of it as like there's a big claw, like a claw machine, and
Yeah.
there's a bunch of different options running along the side, right? So everybody creates something. Everybody creates something. It's just a matter of what you want to create or build. So entrepreneurs and creators typically choose to create and build themselves and their habits. Artists will obviously you're going to be building yourself, internally throughout whatever you choose, but artists will build art. Athletes will build their bodies and their physical skills, right? People who are, writers will build their ability to articulate and express emotions through words, like through it's just different mediums. It's all doing the same thing though. It's just choosing a different type of paintbrush. But everybody
Mm.
creates. It's just what do
Yeah.
you want to create?
Yeah. That's a great metaphor. Uh, it's all the same paint, different paintbrush. Wow. So the whole concept of this podcast is what I've called the duality of gratitude and ambition. I think for some people, they're like, where's grateful
Mm.
fall in? Why is it the grateful podcast?
Oh, I
But
know exactly what you're
uh,
about to get into. I'm excited.
I think that the biggest thing, and I talk a lot about optimizing for fulfillment. The way that you can do this, in my opinion, in the best way to do this is to be driven towards something, but also be grateful for right now. And this
Mm-hmm.
duality is
Mm-hmm.
incredibly, incredibly difficult
Yes,
because
it is.
a lot of people think you're either grateful for right now and that's settling, or you're ambitious, and a lot of ambition comes from a hatred of your current circumstances. But true joy and true happiness comes from, and again, I'm no expert, I'm 18, but this is just my hypothesis that I'm really testing out through this whole podcast is your true joy comes from pursuing something in the future that you want to work towards while also loving what you have right now. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that goes along with everything that we've been saying and you've been saying in this conversation. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that and if you agree with the whole hypothesis.
Absolutely. I'm pulling up a quote because I know I have it right here. I don't want to butcher it. This it's a quote from Epictetus, and all right, I'm just gonna paraphrase. Oh, here we go. I got it. Wealth consists not having of wealth does not consist of having great possessions, but in having few wants. So I think when you talk about balancing gratitude for what you currently have, but having the ambition to want more, brother, you are speaking my language. That is a battle I've been fighting for forever. So I absolutely hear what you're saying. Um, Not everybody fights that. And I think making people more aware of that problem in general is a step in the right direction to let people be more ambitious, let people care less about what other people think, and really just try to live their most fulfilled life possible. But when you talk about like how to balance it, dude, it's tough. It's tough. I think a lot of it comes from wanting to work towards those bigger goals like we spoke about, like working towards the things that you need for your fulfillment that you would regret not doing. That's where the ambition comes from, right? Like I want to work to provide to have a family to so I can be a father, right? That's what I want. Right. So I'm working towards that every day. That's a lot of my drive for my ambition, right? That and like retiring my parents is pretty much the main thing. So that's why I get up and have all this ambition every day. On the flip side, though, I don't need me. I don't need much. I live well below my means. I don't have the biggest apartment. I don't drive the nicest car. I have my girlfriend. We have our little pets. There's a cat in that cat tower right now. Like we've got a good life. I'm very grateful. I love what I have. And it's enough for me. I know that finding enough and being grateful for what you have in the moment, it comes from getting better at it is very hard. It's possible. It's a skill it's a sword you can sharpen, but it takes time. And I think it comes from finding that being present. Like we spoke about earlier, finding that flow to be present and be in the moment shows you how many blessings you have, right? And also being aware of what you don't have or what when something gets taken from you, right? A sick man has one problem, a healthy man has 99. I said that backwards, but you understand what I mean by that, right? If you're sick, the only thing you give a crap about is not being sick anymore. It's a really good gratefulness exercise, really good gratitude exercise. So I think slowing down, finding that stillness, and not constantly having a million wants, knowing to say, what I have right now is enough, but I am not going to remain complacent because I still want to work towards these fulfillment goals that I know I will regret not doing in the future or not at least working towards in the future, right? I think effort is the only thing you can control, right? There's a lot of things that could happen. There's a chance that there's a chance I never get to go to New Zealand. I don't see that happening. I foresee it happening, but there's a chance it doesn't happen, right? My effort to get there is what I can control. So that's kind of the duality that I like to kind of speak on is have the ambition to work towards those things you know you'll regret not doing, but also not wanting everything under the fucking sun. We live in a consumer's world, dude. It's really bad. So knowing when he's like, I have enough and I am incredibly grateful. I have everything I need. More people have everything they need than they really realize because they're constantly getting thrown at and told that they need to buy this, they need to have this, they need to do this to be validated, they need to do this to feel cool or feel successful. Newsflash, nobody gives a fuck about you. Nobody's thinking about you. Focus on what you actually want and what you actually care about.
Another thing I noticed in what you said is some detachment from the result. So
Mm,
you're committed to the effort that you're putting into your goals, but if your goals don't end with the result that you had intentioned, you're not going to die. You're not your joy is not contingent upon the result of the things you're putting effort into. And that's a really concise summary of this whole duality. You're grateful enough right now. There isn't enough. And a lot of people will never a problem I see is a lot of people never find that enough. A lot of people never think they lose enough weight. One stat I saw going into this podcast was that 1/4 of males with a normal weight perceives themselves as being underweight, right? And you can apply this same type of thing to everything. Social media amplifies the success, amplifies the outliers. So everyone doesn't feel like enough, but what you have right now is enough. And I love what you said. A lot of people do have enough right now.
Mm. If I mean, you could dive into this into like a way more like uh scientific way or have more formal structures. I don't know if you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That gets
No.
pretty fascinating. It's a pretty simple concept. I'm not going to dive into it a ton, but it's basically just it's a visual chart and explanation of human psychology and when fit hits the shan when certain needs are not met, right? Like if I don't have a fancy car to drive, I'll deal with it probably. And like saying me, like not just me, like a human can
Yeah.
survive. Like if they have four wheels, they'll be okay, right? If they have food on the table, they're good. But if they don't have like a place to sleep or food in their stomach or someone to talk to, then those needs absolutely trump any other want or need on top of it. So it's about really it's a prioritization of needs and what they don't have. And I think a lot of people are so yeah, I understand there's a lot of people going through a lot of tough shit right now. And I'm not ignorant to that. You know, times could definitely be better. But also they could be a hell of a lot worse too. You know, I think people fail to realize that we live in the coolest time to be alive as a person. Right? It's the most convenient time to be a human in history. I can DoorDash anything I want to, and it will show up at my front door in under an hour. Any food I want in under an hour. I can spawn out of thin air. I can go drive wherever I want. I can talk to you. I just met you, and I'm talking to you on New Hampshire face to face. I'm in Michigan. Dude, there was people digging holes to take a crap like just a couple centuries ago. Like we have running water and plumbing and heating and air conditioning. That is stuff that we have become coddled to just accept as reality. Like, yeah, if you were born into it, you know of no other reality. But as soon as that stuff gets taken away, as soon as you go on a camping trip for a week, you realize, wait a minute, a pillow and a blanket is fucking awesome. Wait a minute, that old mattress I complain about is actually the greatest thing ever, and I miss it more than anything in the world. So if you want to do a good exercise of how much you really do have in your life, start taking it away on purpose. Start doing hard shit on purpose. You'll not only
Yeah.
build your own self-confidence and self-trust, you'll also realize how much good you do have already in your life right now.
One problem that I have been trying to address is we only seem to appreciate things once we're deprived of them. So, like you said, if you want to appreciate what you have, you should start taking things away. Um, for you, and I'm guessing because of your work, you're pretty aware of this, and it doesn't apply to you necessarily. But a lot of people that get fit are end up probably taking for granted something that they once were so amazingly proud of, or so it was the hardest thing they'd ever done, because it's not as close to them. It's further away. It's in the distance. They've already done that. They're on to something new. And so I've been a real exercise for me is trying to keep things in this forefront of my mind, and keep appreciation while not having to strip myself of things. And it's really difficult. It's interesting, just human nature, to realize how difficult that is to do. Do you see that, like that fitness example?
Yeah, definitely. Something that I tell a lot of my clients is I'm not going to let you brush off the wins that you get. I don't
Nice.
care if you, because I work with a lot of guys that want to lose like hundreds of pounds. Like I work with a lot of guys that want to lose 50, 70, 80, 100 pounds. So when you're down 20, it's like, Okay, that's cool, but I still have so much more to lose. Yeah, I get it. You don't look like a swimsuit model, but you've lost 20 fucking pounds. Am I allowed to cuss? I'm sorry if I'm not allowed to.
Yeah, you are.
Sorry. Okay, I'm trying not to, so I apologize. Um,
You're good.
uh, Either way, I'm not gonna let you, and this is a message to anybody, like, do not overlook your wins. That is how you build confidence, and that is how you build trust. And yeah, it's gonna be it's a cheesy concept to talk about, but I don't care because it's real. I've seen it. I am proud when I can go on an airplane and sit in any seat and not have to worry about fitting anymore. I am proud that I can go to the beach and take off my shirt and not feel subconscious and self-conscious anymore. And I have to remind a lot of my guys of that. Like, dude, I had a really cool realization moment with somebody I was speaking about a few months or speaking to a few weeks ago. He's like, yeah, I'm still a little mad about my belly, blah, 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 blah. Like, I'm pretty cool with what we've done so far, but I'm just not happy with where we're at yet. I know we have a lot of work to do still. I'm like, my dude, you've lost 45 pounds. I get you want to lose another 40. You have lost 45 pounds. You have started and completed somebody else's journey entirely. There are other
Yeah.
people that their entire goal is 40 pounds. So, an example I've been saying this one a lot recently. Every time you experience a win, every time you take something that is a positive, right? Whether it's a non-scale victory in a weight loss journey or hitting a milestone in subscribers on your podcast, right? View that as you getting a flower and you planting it, right? I always say every win is a flower, tiny little dandelion, okay? Or whatever flowers you like. Then you plant it behind you in your garden, okay? You have a garden behind you. And most guys are so focused on moving forward that they see these flowers and they just cut right over them. You have to stop, recognize, hey, this is a flower. This is a win. I had a win today. That's cool. Set it behind them and then keep moving forward. Eventually, especially if you struggle with self-confidence, eventually you're going to turn around and you're going to be surrounded by flowers. You are going to be surrounded by wins. And that is you're going to have no choice but to be confident. But you have to keep a tally of the wins that you're actually proud of. Stop throwing them under the rug. You wonder why you don't have confidence. You wonder why you don't have self-trust. You wonder why you never feel grateful enough. It's because you're never taking a moment to actually celebrate yourself. And when you can stack those wins, confidence comes from evidence. And when you can stack in a gigantic list of wins and evidence that you are that dude, eventually that list is going to get too big for you to ignore. And eventually you're going to start walking around with a little bit more spunk in your step and a little bit more, all right, I know what I'm doing. And that's also where a lot of gratitude comes in, right? A lot of your days, there's going to be a lot of good and there's going to be a lot of bad. But if you can reflect on all the wins you had, like, yeah, you know what? Today was a pretty good day. But it doesn't happen if you sweep every time you get a win or you create a milestone and you just throw it under the rug. And I know I'm been on a tangent here for a second, but there's something that you did, Jack, that I noticed that I want to point out. I saw something on your stories a couple days ago talking about verification because you recently did the verification on Instagram. And you said that you were feeling a little bit of imposter syndrome to having that verification because you feel like you didn't have enough followers for it or something, right? That's a win. That is a win. You have the verified badge next to your name. I know it's not like an earned thing as much anymore. I bought mine too. Guess what? It's still a step in the right direction. It's an investment into your business that's going to ultimately help your podcast grow. That is a win. So stop viewing it as I'm not good enough because there's no rule book to say whether you're good enough or you're not. You have to be able to set the standard for yourself and say that is a win. I am happy with that. Not I don't feel good enough for that, so I'm just gonna kind of move on and just Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. Mike actually messaged me the exact same thing. He slid up on my story. And the funny thing about that is I'm not one to struggle with imposter syndrome. I'm a very self-righteous person. I believe that I deserve everything. Uh, I have to keep my arrogance in check sometimes, and I think I do a pretty good job of that outwardly. But even there, like I think I do a good job of it. Some people might disagree. That was more. I'm also a very aware person, and so part of me was thinking, well, how will people view? I'm very socially aware, and well, my biggest struggle is thinking, well, what will other people think of me? How will me having 200 some followers with a verification badge make new people think, oh, he's a fraud or whatever? And and that's an overthinking thing, like we started this podcast talking about.
Hmm.
If I just were to keep it simple, I would just be like, I'm doing that. I don't need to explain to anyone why I did it. I'm doing it for me because I know it'll help me grow. Uh, yeah,
Good. And it's like, okay, I've got it. I can sit here and think about whether or not I deserve it, or I can go earn it. And I can go get to
right,
work, and I can go make more episodes, and I can go improve it, and I can just go get to work.
exactly. It's something you said earlier reminded me of one of my favorite quotes, and I think I quote it every few episodes. But it's Alex Hormozy's "Confidence is not shouting affirmations in the mirror. It's having an undeniable stack of proof that you are who you say you are." Something like
Yep.
that.
Yep.
And man, that one just hits hard.
That one is a banger. Absolute banger.
Yeah,
And that's exactly where that same quote is what stemmed my little flower analogy.
yeah. I love that analogy. Having those, especially the part where you have to actually consciously stop
Hmm.
and pick out and recognize your success and put it there for you to be able to look back upon. Because you're right, so many of us, it's just our instinct to mow over it. We don't celebrate our wins because we just want another win.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, Noah, thank you so much for coming on today. This has been a fantastic conversation, and I hope that everyone listening, watching agrees. But just know that I think we both know how good this was. It was really fun to talk to you.
Yeah, man. Likewise, I had a lot of fun. We talked about some cool concepts. I'm always down to. I always love talking about this kind of stuff with new people and gaining new perspectives. Um, One thing that I would love to see more of, and I think I think Mike said the same thing to you. I would love to see more about you and
Yeah,
your opinions. I would love to learn more about some of this, some of your perspectives on this. Right? Obviously, you share some of your insight and your experience on this, but I think the people that are currently watching, yeah, they get wisdom from the guests, but you got to remember they're watching it for you. So don't be afraid to. I want to know more. I want to know more about you and what you like to do and how you've come about to starting this journey. I think that's something that will only help you grow even more. And I'm not saying that from oh, grow your page faster. I'm just saying that from enjoy the process a little more.
100%. Yeah, that's advice I get from a lot of people. It's I think I need to work on not rushing. I have this clock a self-imposed clock that I'm racing against that realistically no one else has. So it's calming down a little bit, enjoying the process, practicing what I preach.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's hard sometimes, but use those reminders, hold yourself accountable, and remember you're not racing anybody.
exactly. Yeah, I plan on so I'm a senior in high school, plan on going to college next year, either Northeastern University or Harvard. And then we'll see what happens during that, but keeping this up and yeah, no race. Got time.
Yes,
I
sir.
love that you're 23, you got some yeah, it's super exciting to see. It's always super exciting to see people in my same age category. Obviously, you're 5 years older, but still young. Gen Z? Are you Gen Z?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The other Gen Zers making a real impact.
Yeah. Yeah, man. We're trying. We're just keep building, and I you know you think you know a lot, and then you get your whole world spun upside down. So just keep learning, keep being a student. I'm doing the same thing. That's advice I'm giving to myself. So don't think I'm just saying it to you like, oh, you'll get there one day, buddy. Like I say this shit to myself every day. So it's something that I think everybody should adopt, that student mindset, and just have fun with it. And yeah, like you said, Keep it simple.
What makes people listen to you more? I think the fact that you talked about a struggle earlier, I forget what concept we were talking about on this podcast, but you said, I talk to my clients about this all the time, and I struggle with it too. And that piece of authenticity, that piece of, oh, this isn't just something that you're going through, I'm going through it as well with you,
Hmm.
is one of the reasons that people will listen to you, or listen to me, or listen to someone.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, people listen to who they feel understood by, and it's something that is hard for like creators to understand, especially initially, because there's a lot of barriers mentally to get through. Um, but the more relatable, the more real, the more authentic you come across, and that you actually are not just coming across, but you genuinely are just raw and real with what you talk about. It's gonna pay dividends, and it's gonna be a long game. But anything worth doing is gonna take about 10 times as long as than you think it is. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, the Bill Gates quote, you'll never do as much as you think you can in 1 week, but in a year, you'll like 10x what you think you can do.
Hmm. Yeah.
Keeping that perspective in mind.
You can't make a flower grow faster by watering it 10 times a day.
It's a good one. All
Yeah.
right. Thank you so much for this. I think that I just got so much value out of it. I really enjoyed it.
Sweet. I'm glad, man. Yeah, thank you for having me, and hopefully maybe in a few months when this is hitting, 30,000 subscribers, 50,000 subscribers, I'll come back and we'll do it again.
100%. Yeah. So
Sweet.
before we end the recording, my audience, you can find Noah at the Big Fella on Instagram. And on YouTube too, you have like 800 videos, so super good content. I just discovered that today, researching this, and I'm like, let's go, more content right here.
Yeah, yeah. The biggest fella on everything. You can also find me Big Fella Brand. I do it with two G's, so sometimes you don't find it initially. The two G's with big is usually the best way to find it. But yeah, I didn't realize there was that many videos on YouTube. I post a lot of shorts.
Yeah, yeah, it'll be linked. I'll link it down below as well. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Grateful Podcast featuring Noah Tanner, aka the Big Fella. This was such a good episode, one of the first ones where I've really gotten to dive into the weeds of philosophy like I'm interested in, and it actually inspired my solo episode that I released on Monday, where I answered the world's hardest philosophical questions at 18 years old. You should go check it out.